So let's talk pasta. It's a really versatile dish. You can basically use it with any protein you want. You can add fish, chicken, any kind of red meat, and it's a really versatile way of using up cheap ingredients and being able to meal prep at home. You can make as much as you want at a time. You can add any kind of sauce you want. You can do white sauces, red sauces, you can add wine, you can add vinegars, you can make it any kind of style you like. And it's just a really quick, cheap, simple way of making a lot of food at the same time. And you can bash it all into containers, meal prep for the week, super easy. I'm going to do chicken this time. But like I say, you could mix this up. You could use it with beef, you could use it with fish. Generally, I'd say if you wanted to do red meat, you'd combine that with a red sauce just because it adds to the flavour, it makes it a bit of a richer dish. But with chicken or fish, you tend to go with the white sauce just because it's a little bit more delicate, it's lighter. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to do chicken with a white sauce. It's really simple. Most of the ingredients you should have in the house yourself already, except for maybe, you know, the chicken. Who knows? I can't see your kitchen. But no, it's really simple. So let's get on with it. So the main thing that's going to take the most time is actually going to be the pasta. If you use fresh pasta, then it will take a lot less time. It will only take 2 or 3 minutes. But because I'm using dried pasta, it's going to take, you know, more like 10 to 15 maybe, depending on the water. So the main thing that you need to be doing while you're waiting for the water to boil and waiting for the pasta to cook is prepare everything else. Now I've got the chicken ready. I've got the stock also preparing itself by mixing itself into the water, like stock does. So basically you just need to chop all the chicken, grate the parmesan, and then essentially wait for the pasta to cook. What you need to do is wait for the pasta to cook about 5 minutes before it's done. It'll still be quite crunchy, there'll still be a solid inside, and then you can start working on the sauce. And then by the time the sauce is done, you'll still get a couple of minutes ready to put the pasta in along with some of the pasta water, and then that'll help the last couple of minutes while you're cooking the pasta. It'll help bind the sauce together and mix everything really well. Now, one of the first things I decided is why make things more difficult for yourself. So one of the quickest and easiest ways I've found of cutting chicken is with scissors. Super easy, just get it into nice little chunks like this. You can either take the mini fillet out first, just to make it a bit easier to handle, but it is really just super easy just to cube a chicken breast into nice bite-sized chunks like this. I'm sure you don't need to see me chop up 2 full chicken breasts, so movie magic. So as you can see, I've got the pasta and the chicken on the go. I've used about 400 grams of dry pasta. I've also used 2 different types of pasta, 2 different shapes, just because, you know, I like the texture. You can use one type if you want. Like I say, you can also use fresh pasta. It will cut the cooking time down by about 10-15 minutes. So it is pretty handy if you either prefer the taste of fresh pasta or you're just running a little bit low on time. It is more expensive though, which is why I've gone for the dried pasta, because I am cheap. I'm also going to put some bacon in with the chicken when it's closer to getting finished. It is almost done now. You can see that everything's about white. You can see that the browning has started to occur as well, so that's almost done. The beauty about the chicken and the bacon, or whatever you're adding to the pasta, is that you can cook it beforehand and then add it to the sauce along with the pasta, and then that way you can have it all prepared. It can be cold, it can be waiting for you whenever you do the pasta, and it will just make things a little bit easier when you're actually doing the meal prep. For now though, because I'm only doing like 2 or 3 portions, I'm cooking the meat at the same time. Doesn't really matter, but if you already have the cold additions, then you can just do it whenever. I'm going to wait a couple more minutes just for the pasta to cook a little bit more, and then I'll be making the sauce in a nice heavy pot like this. You don't have to have a massive pot like this, but I found that the bigger the pan you have, it just makes things a little bit easier. You're getting all the ingredients in, plus this being enamelled cast iron, it also makes it a little bit hotter, creates more even dispersion from the heat as well, so I like it. It's my favourite pot. All the pasta's finished. It's currently draining in a colander. The chicken and bacon's finished. All we need to do now is the sauce. So I've got 3 or 4 tablespoons of butter that I'm just melting on medium heat. I'm going to get some garlic. I'm going to add 2 or 3 cloves of chopped garlic to the mix, to the butter. And that's just going to cook for about a minute or so, just until it's starting to smell really nice. Get it onto there, a little bit higher on that. And this next bit is essentially making the sauce. You need to be nice and prepared for this, just because you need to be stirring the sauce constantly for the first 2 or 3 minutes. So I've got all the ingredients here. I've got the stock, the milk and the flour. And the flour's going to go in a couple of minutes. It's going to be about 2 or 3 tablespoons again. And you just need to stir it constantly until all of the flour is mixed in with the butter. So 2 or 3 tablespoons. It's not an exact science. It can be a little bit more, it can be a little bit less. But roughly 2 or 3 tablespoons is normally enough to make a nice start to the sauce. So that's in there like that. Grab the whisk and just keep it moving so the flour doesn't burn, and so that you get a nice smooth mix in there with that. It'll look a little bit lumpy just because flour tends to do that. Turn that down a little bit now. You can start to smell the garlic really nicely now. So about now you can see that, hopefully if you can see it, you can see that the butter and everything has started to mix quite nicely. So this is the point where you add the stock. And the milk. I tend to add this a little bit at a time. And then the stock after this. Stir that constantly and you'll see it's gone from lumpy and a little bit dry to a really nice sauce. And you'll keep stirring this, just to make sure it doesn't get any lumps, just make sure it doesn't separate or anything, for about a couple of minutes, just until it boils, and then you bring it down to a simmer, and then you'll be adding the meat and the pasta back into the mix. And then hopefully by then, a couple more minutes in the pan and everything will be done. I have also preserved a little bit of the pasta water. Like I said before, it adds a little bit of stability to the sauce. It thickens the sauce a little bit because of the starch in the pasta, and hopefully it will make the sauce stick to the pasta and the meat a little bit better as well. basically that's about it. One thing I did forget to add just before you add the meat and the pasta is the cheese. So I've got just under 100 grams of grated parmesan. Just going to pop it all in there. Give that another stir. It'll thicken up really nicely. If it is too thick, you can add more of the pasta water than you'd expect. But that is just going to silken out into a really nice cheesy sauce. You can do it without the cheese, to be honest. I really like parmesan, so I've added the cheese, but it tastes completely great without the cheese. You can also do this vegan alternative, so you can do the sauce with non-dairy milk. You can add other things than just meat. It doesn't have to be meat-based. You can do this as a vegan. Corn chicken bites are actually quite nice. They're a nice little alternative to the chicken chunks. But now this is added a little bit more, I'm just going to add the sauce, the water to the sauce. Just like that, maybe a little bit more. It looks quite watery now, but once you've added more heat to it, once you put the chicken and pasta in, it'll thicken up quite nicely. So now I am just going to put the pasta back into the mix. This is quite a lot of pasta, just because I made 400 grams, so I'll be meal prepping it for the next few days. So pop the pasta in. And then add the meat, or whichever ingredients you want to add as well. Like that. Take the whisk out because it's not really much use anymore. And then just give it a nice solid mix. Like that, just so everything's covered. And then just let everything warm back up for a couple of minutes with the lid slightly off. And there we have it. Really easy pasta. It looks delicious. The sauce is really nice and creamy. It's rich, it's thick, and it's just a super simple dish to make either on your own. You can make it with a partner. You can have one pot at a time. You can make it as a meal prep for 3 or 4 days in advance. Possibilities are endless with pasta. As soon as you get the basics of sauce making down, a little bit of flour, some stock, a couple more flavours, really simple to make a roux, then you've basically just mastered this dish altogether. You can mix it up by making, like say, beef pasta, fish pasta, anything you can possibly want, you can make. Hopefully you'll be able to try it at home. I'm going to tuck into this. See you in the next one.